Fresh off his explosive victory in spectacular fashion for his 154-pound debut via one-round stoppage of Malima, Jaron Boots Ennis has been on his promotional tour. And considering the fact that he's a promoter, Eddie Hearn is never off of one. And one of Eddie Hearn's major talking points has been Jaron Boots Ennis's prospective opponents, the ones that he's going to be facing next, right? And obviously, it's going to be Vergil Ortiz. That's who we want. But he said that if it's not him, we're going to go after the belts. And if not them, we're going to go after other marquee matchups. And he identified two of them, one being Errol Spence and the other one being CHARLO. But he did say that they could price themselves out. Please, Lord, let them price themselves out.
Hello, guys. This is Rolly Romero.
Yo, my name is Nonito Donaire. What's up, guys? Designer's Eyes.
Here with Bob Santos Boxing.
And I rock with Dr. Boxing Talk.
I want to give a quick shout out to Dr. Boxing Talk.
And I want to give a big shout out to Dr. Boxing Talk. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for all the support.
You're rocking with Dr. Boxing Talk. Get your daily news from my man right here, the best in the business. Let's get it, baby.
All day, baby.
Amen.
Bam!
If I tell you I'm good, probably you'll say I'm boasting. But if I tell you I'm no good, you know one line.
Yo, what's good, Boxing Talk family? Welcome back to your favorite boxing news channel, Dr. Boxing Talk. And we are back, baby. And Boxing Talk family, BTF, I need y'all to rise up. Because today I was watching an interview, with Eddie Hearn on Brian Custer's show. Shout out to them. It was a good interview. He talked about a plethora of things. But one of the things that caught my attention was, of course, what Jaron Boots Ennis is going to do next. So, Eddie Hearn's been very open with saying that Jaron Boots Ennis is a spectacular, phenomenal talent. He thinks he's the best fighter that he's had on his roster, skillfully speaking, from a skill standpoint. So there's nothing that Jaron Boots Ennis can't do. Not only will he be undisputed at 154, he'll be undisputed at 160 all the way to 168 if he wants to. And the only reason why they didn't get undisputed at 147 welterweight is because he just couldn't keep himself down at that weight class anymore, without it being a significant detriment to his progress and his potential performance in the ring, so they moved up, right? And it's been looking like he's telling the truth, because he went and fought Malima, who never been stopped before. In fact, he was 14-1 in the IBO champ, and he made it look like cake. Made it look easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
So it was like I said, it was just a one-round demolition, and he didn't even break a sweat, and that looked good. But it sends a warning to everybody else at 154, right? Even though a lot of people haven't heard of Malima, he doesn't have he hasn't really established a reputation. I always tell people in boxing, man, your lack of familiarity does not mean that they're not good. Now, Malima didn't look good. That didn't help anybody's argument, but I'm not really quick to throw out fighters or disregard fighters, because a lot of people never heard of Dimitri Bivol until he fought Cinnamon, and we know how that ended, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of these fighters, a lot of them that are unknown aren't really too good, but some of them that are unknown, they're only unknown because they did not have the opportunity. Even Karen Chukazan, he only has 2 losses, and they're both to Jaron Ennis. I believe that Karen, if given the opportunity, could become a champion at the welterweight division, especially with Boots gone. That's just my personal opinion. But anyway, that's neither here nor there for this. We're talking about Boots' potential opponents, right? And of course, Eddie Hearn talked about what we already know, is that they signed up to fight Vergil next, assuming Vergil Ortiz gets by Lubin, and they signed their side, with Turkey and all that stuff, because it's one of the biggest fights in boxing, to which I am in concurrence with that. I agree. I think that this is one of the biggest fights in boxing, even without a belt, but I prefer that one of them, if not both of them, obtain a belt. But hey, beggars can't be choosers, right? I would love for this fight to happen next, but knowing Vergil Ortiz, assuming that he wins, it just seems like it's not lining up and coming into fruition. So I don't want to hold my breath. In fact, I won't believe that fight is happening until they're both in the ring and that first round bell goes ding. But, speaking of that, Eddie Hearn is also weary and cautious of the same thing, right? So he's like, hey, man, if we can't get Vergil Ortiz, then we're not going to stop. We're going to keep on moving, and we're going to target the belt holders. The belt holders at 154-pound division are, WBA champion Abbas Barao, who we had the pleasure of interviewing. Go check it out. Say shout out to him. We also have the WBO belt holder, Xander's Eyes, another one that we had the pleasure of interviewing. Go check it out. Yeah, the Boxing Talk family, we get it in, baby. You know what I'm talking about? Come rock with the doc. You feel me? Because the fighters and the coaches do. And then we also have, who else? The IBF champion, Bakram Murtazaliev. And then we also have the WBC champion, Sebastian Fundora, right? And Sebastian Fundora is occupied with Keith Thurman. Bakram Murtazaliev seems like no one's going to fight him, but he's like on and off with Josh Kelly. Abbas Barao and Xander's Eyes are in advanced talks about them unifying. So what I'm saying is that it seems like the champions are indeed occupied, at least right now in the imminent future. However, there are other people that he could fight because the 154-pound division is the deepest division, in my personal opinion, has the most parity and has the most depth, right? A lot of people would agree with that. So there's some guys that he could fight that I think people would approve of. But Eddie Hearn said he's looking for marquee names. And while 154 is deep, I pretty much already named all the marquee names, right? Besides two guys that we haven't seen in a long time, which would be Errol Spence Jr. and Jermell Charlo, you know, the smaller Charlo, right? And Eddie Hearn seemed like he's contemplating entertaining these fights, like seriously, you know what I'm saying? And I just don't like it. You know, he said that they could probably price themselves out. Yeah, Eddie, they could probably price themselves out because Jermell Charlo has been in the ring with Cinnamon, the face of boxing, right? And Errol Spence has been in the ring with Terrence Bud Crawford. And you know, let's be fair, right? Errol Spence is Mr. No Tune-Up, but he used to say that before he got tuned up by Bud. You know what I'm saying? That one still hurts, man. That one still hurts. But anyway, you know, Errol Spence, he got destroyed by Bud. I think that it only makes sense for him to get a lighter touch. And even if not for the fact that he lost his last time out, he's been out the ring for 2 years. So it only makes sense that he gets a lighter touch, man. You know what I'm saying? And even Jermell Charlo too. Last time we saw him was also 2 years ago, and he didn't get brutalized like Errol Spence did, but he took a pretty devastating loss. It was a decisive loss to Cinnamon. That fight wasn't even close. So both those guys are coming off of long layoffs, but they also have been in the ring with other marquee guys. So of course their price point is going to be higher. And you know, I think, you know me personally, I think Eddie Hearn is the best promoter in the game, but he's a little funny with the money. You know what I'm saying? A little stingy. He be penny pinching, right? You know, and with that, he's already trying to tell you that, oh man, you know, they might price themselves out. So don't get mad at me if Boots doesn't get a good fight.
Bullshit! Bullshit! Bullshit, 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 bullshit.
No, Eddie, we need a good fight, bro. We need a very good fight for Jaron Boots Ennis. I think that not only for the fans and not only for you as a promoter, but for him and his own legacy. You know, he's already been unified for the WBA IBF at the welterweight division, in addition to the Ring Magazine champ. But now he's moved up and he has bigger targets that he wants to knock down, that he's aiming for. So do justice by him and let him build his resume, because you already know people are looking for reasons not to like Boots. Let's face it, right? A lot of people tend to hate on American fighters for whatever reason is beyond me, but you know why. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, so Jaron Boots Ennis is just, he's longing for guys that could bring out the best of him, and even if he beats him in devastating fashion, at least you know that this is a quality opponent. So I think he needs that. And no disrespect to Jermell Charlo, Errol Spence. Errol Spence is literally one of my favorite fighters of all time. You know, I really like him a lot, you know what I'm saying? And not saying that he's the all-time great, but he's definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame, right? And Jermell Charlo's undisputed at 154 in this division, the first one in the 4-belt era, right? So he's definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame. These are great marquee guys, you know what I'm saying? But the circumstances in which they'll be fighting Boots, if they fight him next and fight him immediately, is just unfair to Boots, because if he beats them, then people will say, you know, Errol Spence is not the same, rightfully so, because last time we see him, he got beat from pillar to post by Budrick. And then Jermell Charlo, he doesn't have the same fire with him. He doesn't have the same fire in him, excuse me, because last time we see him, it seemed like the lion got turned into a pussycat by Saul Canelo Alvarez, aka Cinnamon. So these are, I'm not saying that they're legitimate excuses or reasons to knock Boots, but this is knock Boots. Yeah, we're gonna pause that.
No, did he?
But you saw what I did there? That was unintentional. But anyway, that's not a reason to knock down Jaron Ennis, but that is what people will say. And I think it's really, I think that's fair, because last time we see him, there's been a long time. They've been on sabbatical. You know, it's been a long 2-year hiatus, and they're both coming off of L. So we don't need that fight, even if they don't make the price point. But it's just very frustrating with me, with Eddie. It's frustrating for me with Eddie, because same thing we had at welterweight, right? Eddie Hearn claims that Brian Norman was outpriced himself. He claimed Barrios outpriced himself. Stanionis outpriced himself initially. It's like, come on, and now you're saying preemptively that that Errol Spence and Jermell Charlo outpriced themselves. Like, this is just Eddie's playbook, man. Everybody outprices themselves, even going to cruiserweight and getting Ja Pataya fights. It's, oh, this guy outpriced himself, this person outpriced themselves. Hey man, come up with the money, man. You with Turk now, bro. Dig in them pockets, man. You see what I'm saying? Stop being cheap, Eddie. You see? Compensate the fighters, man, and then they'll fight. These, like, maybe 1 or 2 fighters are scared, you know, which I don't really believe that too many fighters are scared. But let's just say, hypothetically speaking, 1 or 2 fighters are scared. Everybody's not scared. You see what I'm saying? What I think the truth is, that it's closer to the truth, is that you're just not doing good business, and they can't justify it. They can't justify it economically to take a risk like that. You see what I'm saying? And that just makes sense, because boxing is a brutal sport. So I think that I think this is good that he's saying Jermell Charlo and Errol Spence will price themselves out because circumstantially speaking, we don't want to see those fights. But I don't want to hear that when it comes to Vergil Ortiz or securing a fight with the Bass Barral for the WBA or Xander Zayas for the WBO or Bakar Merchandise for the IBF or Sebastian Fedora with the WBC, assuming that these guys all win their upcoming fights. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to hear it, but I definitely don't want to hear it when it comes to Vergil Ortiz. That fight needs to happen. I'm looking at Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy. I'm looking at Vergil Ortiz. I'm looking at Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, and I'm looking at Jaron Ennis. We need to make these fights happen. I think Jaron Ennis is about that life, you know, so what's going on, man? Make it happen, man. I don't want to hear about anybody pricing themselves. Not this time, baby. Not this time. But y'all let me know what y'all think about that. Do you think it's a good idea that Jaron Ennis targets Jermell Charlo and Errol Spence as a backup plan? I don't even think you should be looking at them until they have fights to where we know Errol Spence and Jermell Charlo are back in form, and then maybe in the future we could look at that, maybe 1 or 2 fights down the road, but not immediately after seeing what Jaron Ennis just did to Weez Malima and seeing what Errol Spence and Jermell Charlo just went through in their respective fights 2 years ago. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's appropriate that they get tune-ups or bounce-back fights or lighter touches as opposed to jumping in directly with Jaron Ennis. You know, I don't think that fight should be in the imminent future. Maybe down the line in the future later on, but not next. You know what I'm saying? Y'all let me know what y'all think about that. Don't forget to smack that like button, but most importantly, remember, with God, we can do anything. Without God, we're nothing. The doctor's out. Peace.
From the hood to college, both worlds they had to meet. 6 degrees between us, so cold we're about to freeze. But we're Florida boys, hot takes, we bring the heat. We're moving the culture, the engineers to the streets.